listed as quarterback one on, of course, every team's got to put out these dopey unofficial depth charts before their preseason games. Wilson listed as one, but Fields is going to start the preseason opener against the Texans.
I still think they're going to start Wilson, but, if they start Fields, so be it. Like, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I know this. I think they're both talented.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
What is the ceiling for this kid? Now that he's got the money, and we saw something click with him, what is the ceiling for a Jordan Love in this Green Bay team?
Deepest pass target group in the National Football League. 2 stud tight ends. They're a legit 5 deep at receiver. 7 bona fide pass targets, deal. Come on, man. This guy could be a stud. Top 5 quarterback.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Say the under has the correct juice to the 6.5 win total for the New York Giants. It's a losing season. It's a bad season in the greater New York area. Is Brian Daboll and is Joe Schoen back next year?
As a Giants fan, what are you looking forward to? Absolutely nothing. You're hoping like the Yankees make a long enough run so you can forget about the Giants.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Let's go.
Welcome to the Live Golf Team Championship.
The golf has been mesmerizing.
They are the Live Golf Team Champions.
Team golf is back.
Oh, yes!
Are you ready?
Let's go! That's what champions do.
Welcome to Game Time Decisions. It's Coach Young. A little bit of a curveball here. Coach Young is going to take the first couple of segments as Kasey Hudson will then take over until 8 p.m. Good to be on with you with a light slate in regards to hoops. We don't start until tomorrow with the WNBA, but we do have baseball right off the bat, folks. Thank you for listening. Let's get right into business here with games that are currently being played right now. We do have Arizona up 10-3 over Colorado in the top of the 7th inning right now. And we also have San Diego leading the Pittsburgh Pirates 8-1, top 7. Those are the 2 games that are being played right now. Coming up in about 7 or so minutes, Texas Rangers, Dunning has now been announced as a starter. They are going to take on the Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox are minus 130 on the money line. Hawk is the pitcher that will take the reins here for the Boston Red Sox. So we do have those 2 games, that game coming up at the top of the hour. It's just the top of the hour in the next 7 or so minutes here. But I want to spend some time because you know it's Coach Young, so we got to talk some hoops. The WNBA, folks, is back tomorrow night. Kate Constable will come on at 6:14. Kate does a great job. I've done work with her in the past. She will come on at 6:14 as we break down the WNBA second half. We'll get into the games Thursday night. 3 of them on tap. We'll get some of her thoughts in regards to the rest of the season. Also, Tom Vecchio, no one better than Tom Vecchio, will be on at 6:30 with Kasey. He will go through whatever Tom does, which is a little bit of everything, but he'll focus on the baseball. Mark Zinno at 7:14. College football, folks, week 0 is coming around the corner. I do believe it's next week. So Mark Zinno will come on at 7:14 with Kasey to discuss that. And then my guy, Brady Cannon, FedEx St. Jude Championship. FedEx Cup is here, folks. Brady Cannon will be on at 7:30. So you got Kate at 6:14, Tom at 6:30, Zinno at 7:14, Brady Cannon at 7:30. Kate will be on with me. And then Mark, Brady, and Tom will all be on with Kasey. When you talk about the WNBA, folks, They went to the Olympic break, so they've had a month off. There are 3 games that are be scheduled to be played in the WNBA tomorrow night. First, 2 games tipping off at 8 o'clock. First is going to be the Phoenix Mercury -3.5 at the Chicago Sky. We'll take a look at that a little bit with Kate. Obviously, there's some props out for Angel Reese right now on FanDuel, including can she get a double-double for every game the rest of the season? And also, can Angel Reese lead the WNBA in rebounding? Next, the Washington Mystics will take on the Minnesota Lynx. Washington, a big underdog, but a team that after a rough start has been playing 500 ball. Minnesota Lynx are an 8-point favorite. We'll get into that with Kate Constable. I'll give you a hint. Kate is big on one of those teams, and I could see why. Lastly, the New York Liberty, the team with the best record in the WNBA, head out west to go take on Tariqa Hamby and the Los Angeles Sparks. Liberty at 10.5-point favorites. They have the best record in the WNBA, and right now they are co-favorites. I do believe last I checked, plus 155 to win the WNBA championship. So we do have that. Like I said, we do have a loaded baseball card tonight. We have some other guests we talked about. Like I said, Mark Zeno will talk some college football. Brady Cannon will talk some golf and the FedEx St. Jude Championship. But I want to spend the last couple of minutes before Kate comes on at 6:14 to really give my bow and my wrap-up to the Olympics. And I want to spend it on the women's side. The women had a much tougher than anticipated 67-66 win over France in the gold medal game. And there was a lot of issues that I had with the women's team, not the players, but the substitution patterns and the coaching of Cheryl Reed. It's something that started getting a lot of attention from the jump when Diana Taurasi and Chelsea Gray were both in the starting lineup. We obviously saw that DT was removed from the starting lineup, which we got to the medal round being replaced by Jackie Young of the Aces. But the problems didn't start there, folks, or end there, I should say. We had some issues here. Now, one of the issues to me was the play of Nafisha Collier. A Nafisha Collier that I want people to understand. I'm as big of a Nafisha Collier fan as there is. I think Nafisha Collier has been absolutely fantastic. It's going to be a reason why Kate Constable is going to come on at 6:14 and maybe talk about how good the Minnesota Lynx team is. A Minnesota Lynx team, folks, that won the Commissioner's Cup, that has beat the New York Liberty twice this year, and it could be a sleeper pick, hint, hint, to win the WNBA title. But Nafisha Collier is not a 3. And that's where they played her. They played Nafisha Collier as a 3, along with Stewie and Asia Wilson as the 4-5. And it didn't make sense. We didn't have enough shooting. So you looked at that. You looked at Chelsea Gray, who looked a step slow. Hint, hint. I'll get you into who I like to win the WNBA title. And it's partially because the point guard does not look like herself. So we did get the win, but there were questions that were done by this coaching staff, by Cheryl Reed, that I just don't understand. I talked about it. Nafisha Collier at 3. Chelsea Gray starting. What happened to Ionescu? She was playing big minutes, first sub off the bench, then barely played. Didn't get into the game until 40-35 in the third quarter, and really was a pivotal part of the USA's run. Won't get talked about because she got us into offense. Diana Taurasi sat the bench, minutes up and down. So to me, there were questions about the substitution patterns, but as a coach, and anybody knows me, knows this is where I'm going, the last 35 seconds was the most maddening and crazy as I was driving down a New York State thruway, listening and trying to watch what I saw were 2 terrible defensive possessions. Number 1, we don't switch on Gabby Williams and give her an open 3. I don't care it's from 30 feet. You funnel her to the basket, make her make a 2, make the game go from 4 to 2 points, and try to seal it at the foul line. Next, Kelsey Plum goes to the foul line, does a great job going 2 for 2. We have no one at the scorer's table. we're not matched up. Here goes the ball in bounds, and we were at Gabby Williams' foot or toenail, whatever you want to call it, from being in overtime. And I'm saying this right now. Think what you want. If that girl hit that three and we go to overtime after being down 10 early in the third quarter, come all the way back, take the lead, blow the lead, in Paris, we would have lost that game in overtime. The momentum would have completely swung, and a USA team that was never prepared for a tight game got it. So there were questions in regards to what we saw there. And maybe if we have a minute or so, I'll ask my good friend Kate Constable what she thought about that. But coming up, we will go through the WNBA. We will go through the three matchups for tomorrow night. Kate will have some picks. She does have her thoughts on who can win the WNBA championship, some other odds and predictions that she likes. And what's great about Kate is she knows hoops just as much as I do, especially on the women's basketball side. So make sure you have your pen and paper ready when Kate Constable comes back after the break here and we get into the WNBA. Remember, folks, we haven't played the WNBA in about a month here, so it'll be an important time for the WNBA. And this is a spot, folks, where you can make some money. So after the break, Kate Constable will join me, and we will get into the WNBA action coming up next on SportsGrid.
What a chance it is for Adam Paxton and Victor Tingsham to pick up their first weekly titles. Adam Paxton, well, it's been the dream debut so far for him. For Victor Tingsham, he'll feel like this is a moment a little while coming. A place in the final up for grabs for one.
You can do it. Make that double 18 away for a place in the final.
Wesley Plaisir was beaten, knocked out by Mike Warburton in a last leg decider.
Play. That is what they are playing for. They are playing for the trophy. They are playing for the big prize pot, and they are playing for a place in the £25,000 Champions Week.
97.
There is a point you feel that reality will surely kick in for Adam Paxton. He's here on debut. He watches the Super Series almost every single week. He was happy just to be playing in a group. This could be the leg that we talk about at the end of the night as being the one that changed the final, because Adam Paxton has just gone cold at the moment.
Bang on,
He doesn't just get two, he gets the lot.
Adam should take out the 16 out. If not, Mike's just behind him.
Shot on the fifth leg.
Can Paxton deliver in the biggest moments of his career so far? He can. Double 12. What a moment that is from Adam Paxton. Mike Warburton was looking at 60 to win the match. Paxton, here's your moment. He approaches the hockey with confidence, with time, and delivers. Adam Paxton on debut. The boy, the fanboy, comes to the Super Series and wins.
Welcome back to Game Time Decisions. Coach Young here, and I'm so happy because if I get to host a segment, and this is different because usually on the pick and roll, I'm the one rolling, but now I'm the one with the ball. So if I'm going to pass the rock off to anyone else to talk WNBA, my good friend Kate Constable is on with us. Kate, thank you so much for joining us for this segment.
Yeah, it's good to be back with you. Good to be talking some hoops with you, Coach.
Well, let's dive right in because we don't have a lot of time, and you and I were talking during the break. There's other stuff we may want to get into. So let's jump right into the action. 3 games in the WNBA. And actually, really quick, before we start that, If there are one or two things you're looking for in the second half of the year, players to improve, teams to make jumps, give me one or two storylines that you're going to be watching closely this second half of the year.
Yeah, I think one of them is the Connecticut Sun with Marina Mayberry going over there. She was traded just before the All-Star break, so she was in a Sun uniform for the All-Star skills competition, but she hasn't actually played with that team yet. So I'm interested to see what type of offense she can bring to that squad, because the Sun are great on the defensive end and they have pieces on offense. I mean, Alyssa Thomas is phenomenal, Dewana Bonner, but how is Marina Mayberry going to fit in to that team? And is she the piece that they've kind of been missing that could take them to the next level over this last, I mean, it's not even half the season. There's maybe like 14, 15 games left. So what impact will she be able to have? And is it enough to propel them to a deep playoff run? Obviously, the Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, those are two players that are going to have a lot of eyeballs on them throughout the second half of this, or the final stretch of the season. And then how do the Aces respond to so many of their players being on Olympic rosters, whether it's for the U.S., other teams, the 3-on-3, they've had a lot of playing time over the last couple of weeks that other players throughout the league have not had. So how is that going to affect this Aces team down the stretch? Those are just a couple of them off the top of my head.
And it's great that you bring up Marina Mayberry, a family, the Mayberry family I've known for a long time, from the Jersey Shore, and known Marina since she was about 8 or 9 years old. She's competitive as they come. And folks, if you don't realize, they picked up Mayberry the day after they lost their third straight game to the New York Liberty. The team of Connecticut Sun, Kate is right, one of the best, actually the best defensive team metric-wise. Their issue, they don't shoot the three well. This is a girl last year, Marina Mayberry, who shot 39% from three. She's exactly what that team needs. And if she can unlock that three-point shooting, that gives someone at the three-point line that Alyssa Thomas, when she drives, can kick the ball out to. Kate, let's get to tomorrow night's games. First off, the Washington Mystics, they are 8.5-point underdogs at the Minnesota Lynx. This is a Mystics team, folks, that has played much better after, I think, an 0-12 start. I think they're about 500 since that. Kate, what do you like tomorrow night in Mystics versus Lynx?
Yeah, the Mystics, I believe, were 2-4 in their last 6 games leading into the All-Star break. I like them plus the 8.5. I think this line is just a little bit too steep for the Lynx. And I mean, this isn't necessarily a play totally on the Mystics as much as it is a fade of the Minnesota Lynx coming off of the All-Star break. You had Nafisa Collier, who played a ton for Team USA. You had Bridget Carlton, who was on Canada's team. Alana Smith played for Australia. And then you had the Lynx head coach, Cheryl Reeve, who has been deep into trying to win a gold medal, which they were able to accomplish, but that pressure was on her for the last couple of weeks. So how focused are those 3 players, their head coach, going to be coming into the second half of the season, especially in this very first game back? I'm not so concerned about the Lynx going forward and into the postseason as I am just this one second game following the break. Are these players going to be well rested? James, I was in Paris watching the Olympics, and I'm still exhausted from the jet lag, and I got back on left Monday after they won gold on Sunday. So I would imagine these players, they probably have a little bit better recovery tactics than I do, but I would imagine they're still feeling some tired legs. So I'm going to play the Mystics plus 8.5 against Minnesota tomorrow.
And folks, the jet lag is real. You even look at teams when they go to the West Coast. If they have to go up the West Coast and play the next day, oftentimes it's early start. The early the game, they may struggle. So that could be something, even the Mystics, maybe early in the game, maybe even to win the first quarter, maybe they play with the lead. Second game of the night, same start time of 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Phoenix versus Chicago. Interesting teams here. A lot of players with Olympic duty on the Phoenix side versus the Chicago Sky team. With obviously, you're out there with Teresa Weatherspoon's done with that team playing as hard as they can. We have the Mercury minus 3.5-point favorites. Kate, who do you like in that matchup?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards the Sky. I have not bet this game quite yet, but leaning towards the Sky, getting the points. Same storyline of Tarasi Griner, Kalia Copper. They flew straight from Paris to Chicago. So the rest is, haven't slept in their own beds yet. Kennedy Carter for the Chicago Sky. ESPN just came out with a top 25 players list. Carter was ranked 24th on that list, and she was not happy about it. So I think we're going to see a great performance from Kennedy Carter. Her points prop is 21.5. I would take the over on that. My only concern with Chicago is that they are playing without Marina Mayberry, who was a big part of that offense. So leaning Sky +3 against Phoenix, but also like Kennedy Carter to have over 21.5 points.
Last game of the night, New York Liberty, best team in the WNBA first half of the year, heading to LA, 10.5-point favorites. Probably too rich for some people's blood. But where would you say you could find some money to win in that game tomorrow, Kate?
Yeah, this line's actually come down. It was 11.5 in favor of New York, now down to 10.5. Still a little too rich for my blood. Jonquel Jones is where I'm going to look in this game. She was one of the Liberty, the big time Liberty players that didn't play in the Olympics. So she's very well rested coming into this game. She's going to play upwards of 30, 35 minutes. And the Sparks don't have a great front court without Cameron Brink. So I think Jonquel Jones, double-double, you get some plus money, plus 120, or you could take her points, rebounds, and assists. That's around 27.5. I think she's going to be someone that the Liberty rely a lot on with Stewie. Sabrina Ionescu still recovering to the Olympics. So Jonquel Jones is the way to look in this game.
Quickly, folks, I agree because I'm always a fan of Double J. Thanks to Kate for coming on. Coming up next, I am done. I've done my part. I was a spot starter. I'm going back to the bench. Kasey Hudson has you coming up next. Tom Vecchio at 6:30 p.m. We'll be back with Kasey only on SportsGrid.
What a chance it is for Adam Paxton and Victor Tingstrom to pick up their first weekly titles. Adam Paxton, well, it's been the dream debut so far for him. For Victor Tingstrom, he'll feel like this is a moment, a little while coming. A place in the final up for grabs for one.
You can do it. Make that double 18 away for a place in the final.
Wesley Plaisir was beaten, knocked out by Mike Warburton in a last leg decider.
That is what they are playing for. They are playing for the trophy. They are playing for the big prize pot, and they are playing for a place in the £25,000 Champions Week.
97.
There is a point you feel that reality will surely kick in for Adam Paxton. He's here on debut. He watches the Super Series almost every single week. He was happy just to be playing in a group. This could be the leg that we talk about at the end of the night as being the one that changed the final, because Adam Paxton has just gone cold at the moment.
Bang on,
He doesn't just get two, he gets the lot.
Adam should take it the 16 out. If not, Mike's just behind him.
Shot on the big flag.
Can Paxton deliver one of the biggest moments of his career so far? He can. Double 12. What a moment that is from Adam Paxton. Mike Warburton was looking at 60 to win the match.
14.
Paxton, here's your moment. He approaches the hockey with confidence, with time, and delivers. Adam Paxton on debut. The boy, the fanboy, comes to the Super Series and wins.
Welcome back into Game Time Decisions. And no, it is not Coach in the driver's seat. I have finally made it. The Jersey girl is getting her legs underneath her, guys. But great stuff from Kate Constable, one of my favorite WNBA minds. And thank you so much, Coach, for helping out there. So we got plenty to get into. As y'all know, this Wednesday MLB slate, pretty rocking. So we got to find you guys some winners, which means we're going to bring in some expertise. We got Tom Vecchio, who's going to break down multiple games tonight to give you the best angles for your betting, for your props. Then we've got to talk some golf. We got the FedEx St. Jude's Championship coming up. And, of course, Brady Cannon's the guy to get us driven, get us diving in to all the things that you need to look at, including those odds, because he had some great stuff last weekend when it came to the Wyndham. Now it's time to focus on FedEx, and then we're only so close to college football, everyone, which means we've got to break down what's going on. Those top AP 25 polls came out, and there's a little controversy around that number one spot with Georgia, but we've got somebody who's going to help me break it all down, figure it out, see where we should lie when it comes to college football. Can Georgia be that back-to-back number one spot? There's a lot of conversation around it, and it's going to be Mark Zeno who helps us get into the nitty-gritty of the college football polls. But it's NFL preseason on top of the large MLB slate that we've got going on, and with the NFL preseason, that's where we gauge what players, what teams are going to bring to the table in the coming weeks. Most importantly, rookies, quarterbacks, top positions that need to be filled, skill sets that need to be exceeding expectations, and we saw some glimmers of some great stuff the other week. So we're going to break it down, starting with the Chicago Bears. Of course, the larger conversation is Caleb Williams, and is he their guy? Well, it sounds like all of Chicago is rallying behind Caleb Williams, not to mention the Bears starting off this preseason 2-0. A lot of Bears fans are hoping that this continues and that they open up the NFL season 2-0. You got Caleb Williams, who only got a little bit of action, but we know that the Bears have every intention possible of protecting their players. So they're going to be really precise with how much playing time he gets. But to come in there and to right out the gate get 95 passing yards against a Bills team that was expected to perform a lot better. You're talking about the Bears topping the Bills 33-6. And it was also running back Ian Willer that contributed 2 tutties, 5 carries for 43 yards to help the Bears roll through. So, of course, that's one of the top guys that we had to show some love to. But speaking of love, football fans, Jordan Love versus the Browns. Now, Jordan Love went 2 for 2 versus the Browns with 63 passing yards and a tutty to add, but he was the only touchdown of the quarterback group. So something to keep in mind is they don't need to evaluate the quarterback room. Jordan Love is their guy, but the bigger conversation here is going to be what weapons is Jordan Love throwing to. And if you guys want to know a little something about me and my NFL geekdom, it's the fact that I was all over Christian Watson to make an impact in the NFL, but the guy has got to stay healthy, especially to contribute to the success of Jordan Love. But then you got Romeo Doubs, who's always kind of been there helping out in slot and so on and so forth. So good to see work from him. Then you got running back Emmanuel Wilson, who found the red zone for the Packers, as well as a gain of 67 yards. So that was the Packers versus the Browns in the NFL preseason the other week. Now, moving forward to J.J. McCarthy, have to talk about this good news, bad news situation here, everyone. The good news being that he had successful meniscus surgery this morning. Bad news is that he's going to be out for the season. And this is a guy that showed up versus the Raiders. You're talking about 188 passing yards, 2 tutties, 1 interception, but it's okay. He's getting his bearings. And there was an expectation there for him to kind of take the reins versus a Vikings team that lost Kirk Cousins, who helped drive them to more success than anticipated last season. But it's all right. Sam Darnold is there, and they still have a lot to work through in rebuilding this franchise, this organization. But I was really disappointed to see this happen in J.J. McCarthy. A lot of high hopes there for him. And then we got to talk about T. Higgins versus my Tampa Bay Bucks. Probably not the thing that I'd love to mention, but you got to give love and credit where love and credit is due. T. Higgins had a massive catch against my Tampa Bay Bucks, but the Bucks came out on top, putting up 17 points. It was Kyle Trask and John Walford that split the reps there, something that we knew that the Tampa Bay Bucks would do because Todd Bowles does not mess with his players. But another larger conversation here, offensive line. You got Graham Barton that really shined for the Tampa Bay Bucks, moving into that center position, which is different than what he did in college, but it ended up working out. So a number of things that we saw that are going to placate into the regular season coming out of this preseason, most importantly, and a lot of other standout performances. But as I mentioned, We have a Wednesday slate in the MLB to really dive into. We also have to touch base on all of the golf information for FedEx. And we've got some great guests coming down the pipeline to make sure that we get you guys prepared to make the best and smartest bets possible here on SportsGrid TV. So be sure to stick with us as we get ready to go into a quick break. More NFL Week 1 to get into, college football, golf, baseball. You can make your own game time decisions. We'll catch you guys on the other side of this very quick break.
What a chance it is for Adam Paxton and Victor Tingstrom to pick up their first weekly titles. Adam Paxton, well, it's been the dream debut so far for him. For Victor Tingstrom, he'll feel like this is a moment a little while coming. A place in the final up for grabs for one.
You can do it. Make that double 18 away for a place in the final.
Wesley Plaisir was beaten, knocked out by Mike Warburton in a last leg decider.
That is what they are playing for. They are playing for the trophy. They are playing for the big prize pot, and they are playing for a place in the £25,000 Champions Week.
97.
There is a point you feel that reality will surely kick in for Adam Paxton. He's here on debut. He watches the Super Series almost every single week. He was happy just to be playing in a group. This could be the leg that we talk about at the end of the night as being the one that changed the final, because Adam Paxton has just gone cold at the moment.
Bang on,
He doesn't just get two, he gets the lot.
Adam should take out the 16 out. If not, Mike's just behind him.
Shot on the fifth leg.
Can Paxton deliver one of the biggest moments of his career so far? He can. Double 12. What a moment that is from Adam Paxton. Mike Warburton was looking at 60 to win the match.
14.
Paxton, here's your moment. He approaches the hockey with confidence, with time, and delivers. Adam Paxton on debut. The boy, the fanboy, comes to the Super Series and wins.
Welcome back, everyone, to Game Time Decisions. Kasey Hudson here, back in the driver's seat. And we got to get into this MLB slate, which means Tom Vecchio is going to give you all the information you need to bet smart, bet better, to do all of the things. So with Tom coming in, we got to talk about the Nationals versus the Oilers. We've got to talk about the fact that yesterday's game, the Nationals sat fourth in the NL East, 15.5 games behind the Phillies at the top. Tom, let us know where your thoughts are on this first game, as we've got a large slate to lean into.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Certainly looking at the under on this one. I know the Orioles have been, a bit up and down as of late, but, Hers on the other side for the Nationals has been good. He's got a strikeout rate of about 20%. Dean Creamer on the mound for the Orioles. He's a fine pitcher. I'm just not overly worried about the Nationals offense on a day-to-day basis. I know they've been winning games to this point, but I'm also not willing to lay minus 172 with Baltimore. I know that they're a great team. I know that the offense will certainly get it done. I expect them to bounce back, all things considered. I just don't like laying that amount. So I'll side with the under on this one. It's baseball. It's a weird sport. Weird stuff can happen. So it's ultimately stay away from the money lines and look towards the total and specifically the under.
Love that. Now, there was a few people kind of chatting earlier. Would you ever look at anything in terms of like Nationals plus 1.5 or any kind of spread here for the Nationals to cover?
If they were at home, like I said, Hers has a strikeout rate of at 29%. Like if it's a small sample size though. So like if I trusted a pitcher a bit more than I do him, I would look to a team in the tier of the Nationals at plus 1.5. It's just not something I generally do.
Gotcha. Now heading over to this Mariners-Tigers game, you've got Wu on the mound, 2-1 with a 3.06 ERA and 7 road starts as of right now. Sorry, but some bullpen work coming up for the Tigers. What are you looking at with odds and lines in this one?
For this one, Bo Brisky on the mound for the Tigers, like quite a lopsided game last night. I'm not convinced the Tigers are as good as what we've seen from them as of late. Also, I don't think the Mariners are as bad as what we've seen. So I actually like the over on this one. I believe it's sitting at 8 flat. So I like over 8. You can take it. You can get a push at that one. I expect the Mariners to bounce back after losing 15-2 or whatever it was last night. Again, I'm not willing to lay minus 140, especially if they're on the road, but I'll take the over 8 in this one.
All right. Now we got the Cubs and Guardians. 2-1 victory for the Guardians yesterday. Noel with a go-ahead home run in the 6th inning, and Matthew Boyd came in hot with 6 strikeouts. What are you leaning at here?
This one would probably be the under on both pitchers. Jameson Taillon and Alex Cobb, under on their strikeout props. They're both not big-time strikeout pitchers, and specifically I'm actually worried about Taillon just because the Guardians are so good. They maybe don't have the biggest power team, but they can certainly put balls in play. So either looking to under on Taillon or looking to Stephen Kwan or J-Ram total base prop just because they get on base, they don't strike out a ton, and I like the splits for them. So Kwan is awesome. I'll certainly take him, and under on Jameson Taillon.
Love that. Now, what would you kind of gauge in terms of anyone wanting to maybe look at the Cubs' money line in this matchup? We got the Cubs, I think, sitting in third when it comes to the NL Central, 9 games behind the Brewers in the top spot.
Yeah, I don't bet against the Guardians, especially at home. They've one of, if not the best bullpen in not just the AL, but the entire league. So I can't trust a team as average and mediocre as the Cubs are to pull away a road win, especially when we know that if the starting pitchers are equal, all things considered, that the bullpen for the Guardians is just far superior to the Cubs. So I can't possibly go to a road team against the Guardians.
Is it just me? Is there no love for Chicago yet in baseball? The Chicago fan base is getting there in football, but not in baseball yet, huh?
They started off super hot, the Cubs, that is. Obviously, we're not going to talk about the White Sox too much, but the Cubs started off super hot. They just weren't super consistent. I think they need to make a few more trades at the deadline, but I think they're in a good spot moving forward. Imanaga's an awesome pickup. Hopefully they add some pieces around him, and next year and the following years will be better.
Gotcha. Well, we got the Cardinals versus the Reds, and a lot of love for Kyle Gibson, who's supposed to be up for St. Louis tonight. What are you seeing edging in this game?
I actually like the Cardinals in this one on the money line. I like them to bounce back. Ultimately, I think they're a good team. They're certainly not great. I know they've had their ups and downs as of late, but Emilio Pagan on the other side for the Reds. Ultimately, I expect offense in this game. The Great American Ballpark, a.k.a. the Great American Small Park, is one of the best hitters parks in the league. That's why the over's at 9.5. Kyle Gibson's not the best pitcher in the league, but the offense can certainly get there, especially if the ball starts flying. So if you want to keep things simple and you want on the other side, you want to go to a De La Cruz total base prop or a 2+ hits, runs, RBIs. I think that's certainly fine as well, but no money lines in this one, money line for the Cardinals in this one, over as well. I'll certainly take the runs and the offense.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Cardinals money line on this one. For once, I'm not always someone to jump on money line bets, but this one looks a bit more appealing tonight. And as we head over to the Astros versus the Rays, Astros are hot right now and 6-1 on current road trips, trying to take a lead in the AL West. What are you seeing in this matchup?
Ultimately, it's about the under. The Rays just don't bring the consistent amount of offense on a night-to-night basis. Blanco's good on the mound for the Astros. Zach Littell's on the mound for the Rays. He's good as well. I know the Astros are super hot. Alex Bregman's been super hot. He's had home runs in 3 straight games, I believe it is. But I just can't get behind too many teams, especially a team like Tampa, putting up runs on consistent amount to force a pitcher out and really turn this into a back-and-forth barn burner. So, I like a lot of unders, especially on totals, just because that's what we're going to see. It's baseball. Teams fail more often than not, and the Astros can certainly shut down opposing teams with their pitching staff and especially their bullpen, which is rounded into form after a tough couple months to start the year. They're looking as good as ever right now.
Now, I have to ask you this. With the mound matchup, would you maybe consider any kind of Rays run line here? You've got Littell on the hill, who's 2-0 with a 2.53 ERA, 2 career Cs versus the Astros. So obviously he's played well versus the Astros. Would you lean towards any run line?
No, I can't get behind a run line. They're at home. It's okay. It's ultimately a pass for me. I just can't do it.
Okay. No run line and no love for my Tampa Bay Rays. Moving on to the Athletics versus the Mets. The Athletics are coming off an upset in the series opener on Tuesday with a nice 9-4 win, and the A's have 3 wins in a row and are 6-4 in their last 10 games. What's flattering and attractive in this one?
The Athletics have been sneaky good as of late. I think the minus 210 for the Mets is far too much considering what we have seen from them, especially as of late, and what we've seen from the Athletics. So I'll just go to Francisco Lindor for 2+ total bases at minus 125. He's been awesome as of late. The Mets need him to continue to be awesome if they want to have any shot at the wild card. Joey Estes is on the mound for the Athletics. He's allowing a 486 slugging to lefties and a 5.97 xFIP. He's absolutely terrible. He has a 12% strikeout rate. He's allowing a 52% fly ball rate. So Lindor, who's got enough power, and he's got 297 BABIP versus righties. I will certainly take that any time. Again, there's a player. I like players that can get props done in one swing. That's what we have with Lindor, getting a double or getting a home run, especially in this matchup, and a 41% fly ball rate in this split. Give me Lindor 10 times out of 10.
Now, any love or anything to consider when it comes to Pedersen on the mound? Lefty slugging. You've got him at 6-1 record with a 3.34 ERA heading into tonight specifically. Any love for the lefty?
You could certainly look to a strikeout prop if it's sitting at, was it 6.5? That's something I would consider. The Athletics, they're like sneaky good. They have power in their lineup, but if they swing and miss and they get like undisciplined at the plate, that's the spot pitchers can take advantage of. But the power that they bring recently has me a little bit concerned.
Now, really quick, how important is it for the Mets to even up the series tonight?
Well, they just need wins regardless of who they're playing. Like, if they want a shot at the wild card, they're going to have to start picking up wins left and right. And that would be a lot of Lindor, a lot of Pete Alonso, getting Nimmo going. And like, they just need any win they can get.
Absolutely. Well, Tom Vecchio sticking with me because we've got a late night slate to get into. I said there was going to be a lot of MLB, and we will deliver here on SportsGrid. So make sure you stick with us as we get ready to go to a quick break on the other side. And follow Tom Vecchio. I believe I still have this correct. Tom_Vecchio1. So you can stay up to date on all things here on SportsGrid TV.
What a chance it is for Adam Paxton and Victor Tingstrom to pick up their first weekly titles. Adam Paxton, well, it's been the dream debut so far for him. For Victor Tingstrom, he'll feel like this is a moment a little while coming. A place in the final up for grabs for one.
You can do it. Make that double 18 away for a place in the final.
Wesley Plaisir was beaten, knocked out by Mike Warburton in a last leg decider.
Play. That is what they are playing for. They are playing for the trophy. They are playing for the big prize pot, and they are playing for a place in the £25,000 Champions Week.
97.
There is a point you feel that reality will surely kick in for Adam Paxton. He's here on debut. He watches the Super Series almost every single week. He was happy just to be playing in a group. This could be the leg that we talk about at the end of the night as being the one that changed the final, because Adam Paxton has just gone cold at the moment.
Bang on, Kerry.
He doesn't just get 2, he gets the lot.
Adam should take out the 16 out. If not, Mike's just behind him.
Shot on the fifth leg.
Can Paxton deliver one of the biggest moments of his career so far? He can. Double 12. What a moment that is from Adam Paxton. Mike Warburton was looking at 60 to win the match.
14.
Paxton, here's your moment. He approaches the hockey with confidence, with time, and delivers. Adam Paxton on debut. The boy, the fanboy, comes to the Super Series and wins.
Welcome back into Game Time Decisions on this lovely Wednesday. Kasey Hudson still hanging out with Tom Vecchio because we've got to get into the late slate of MLB. But before we get there, we got a Phillies game going on. And so we're going to play with some live market options, which means our MLB expert is going to walk us through anything he's seeing within this Phillies game.
Yeah, let's jump to Bryce Harper for 2+ total bases, sitting at plus 130 thereabouts. The Phillies have been struggling as of late. There's absolutely no doubt about that. I expect them to bounce back. They're going up against Edward Cabrera tonight. He's not a good pitcher, and I will take a player in the tier of Harper against the pitcher. Regardless of what Harper's done in recent games, he struggled on the road trip. I don't care. This season, Cabrera's allowed a 4.29 slugging to lefties, a 3.53 WOBA, a 5.42 xFIP, 1.93 home runs per nine. He has a 36% fly ball rate, and he has an 18.6% walk rate. So we'll take Harper bouncing back. We'll take the Phillies bouncing back. He's awesome versus righties with a 137 WRC+. He has a 278 BABIP, which is good. It's not amazing. He has a 41% fly ball rate and a 39% hard contact rate. So again, a player that can get a prop done in one swing is something I absolutely love, and we get plus money for Harper at plus 130.
I'm all in when it comes to the plus money. Now, as we get to this late slate for tonight, of course, we've got the Dodgers, I believe, won 5 straight going against the Brewers. And Shohei Ohtani, who hit his 37th bomb or nabbed his 37th bomb of the season. Talk to me about this game and obviously the excitement around Shohei Ohtani.
The news for this game is that Walker Buehler is making a start for the Dodgers. This is his first start since June 18th, and I love taking unders on pitchers that are coming back from injuries. And regardless of it being an injury for Walker Buehler, this has been one of his, if not his actual worst season in the majors. The amount of injuries he's had over the past couple of years, missing a year, has really taken a toll on his overall skill set. It's tough to see, but this year is an 18.5% strikeout rate, which is bad. He has a 7.2% swinging strike rate, which is the worst of his career. And he has a 7.3% barrel rate allowed, which is absolutely awful. The Brewers, they have a 23.4% strikeout rate versus righties, which is slightly worse than the league average. But Walker Buehler is probably not going to be out there for more than 70, 75 pitches. So he just doesn't have it on the mound anymore. It's sitting at minus 146 for under 4.5 strikeouts. That's where I like it. I don't expect him to go deep in the game, and just the struggles he's had since coming back from his injury. He is not the same pitcher he once was. I will take unders time and time again with Walker Buehler.
Yeah, and plus, SportsGrid fans, I would listen closely to this because you and Brady Cannon this past weekend had a great conversation about gauging pitchers that are coming back in or returning from injury, players in general, and a lot of that worked out favorably in terms of what you and Brady discussed, so something to keep an eye on for that Brewers-Dodgers game. Now moving forward to the Yankees versus the White Sox. No, we don't want to talk too much about the White Sox, but I'm sure there's some good stuff in here.
Yeah, I mean, the Yankees' money line, I'm seeing it right now, minus 250. The run line is minus 1.5, but it's minus 146. That's something I'm not super fond of either. Will Warren is on the mound for the Yankees. He made his debut a little while ago for them. He's got a strikeout rate in the mid-20s. We know the White Sox aren't good. If you want to roll with a pitcher like that, it's certainly fine. You want to go to a Judge total base prop, it's certainly fine. The way I would approach it is if you want to go to one spot, it'd actually be taking the Yankees minus 2.5, not just 1.5. If you want to shoot for the plus money, that's what this money line is implying. But it's a small sprinkle, very small unit on 2.5 because they should be winning this game by a large margin, as the money line would indicate. But that is a very, very small play just to get a little action in this game, if anything.
Appreciate that. Now, as for action, we've got the Blue Jays, and then we've got the Angels. Taking a look at these odds and lines, what's really popping out, you've got run total sitting at 8.5. Where are you leaning here?
It's also all about the under on this one. Barrios versus Tyler Anderson. Tyler Anderson's been surprisingly good this year, at least at surface level. I still don't think he's a good pitcher, but the Angels aren't a good offense. The Blue Jays are a struggling offense. They're certainly going to put up some runs at some times. You can go to Vladdy. It is a righty-lefty matchup for Vladdy. Anderson's not a big fly ball pitcher. He's not a big strikeout pitcher as well. He's a ground ball pitcher who pitches contact. I think that plays into favor for Vladdy, especially since he's so hot. But I would take the under on Tyler Anderson. I would take the under on the game overall. It's not necessarily correlated with Vladdy total base prop, but you can find some middle ground and work your way from there.
Yeah, I totally agree with that one. I like a good strikeout prop. And then for the Braves versus the Giants, pregame odds and lines. And then I think it's Robbie Ray on the mound. Where are you seeing the most flattering lines here?
Yeah, Robbie Ray's been solid since he's been back. Strikeout rate over 30%. I mean, this is the strikeout rate and the level of production that we've known from him that he's done previously prior to his injuries. He was at times a Cy Young caliber pitcher. He can push a strikeout rate well over 30%. The walks and the fly balls have always been an issue for Robbie Ray, but he's at home. It's a great pitcher's park in San Francisco. I actually like the over 7.5 strikeouts for him. He had a little bit of plus money in there. His pitch count has been increasing, obviously, since he's been back, which is what we want to see. As I've said before about the Braves lineup, talking with Ben and Donnie on the early line on Mondays, when we look at the Braves lineup, if there are times when we don't see Matt Olson and Austin Riley carrying the offense, the bottom half of their lineup can struggle at times. I think that is something, especially at the end of a long road trip for the Braves, we can see Robbie Ray jump on with that high strikeout rate. So I'll take a pitcher's park with the pitcher surging and the Giants surging overall. I don't know who wins this game, but I'll certainly take Robbie Ray going deep. If you want to roll that into a total out prop, that could also be something to look at.
Absolutely. Now, I have to ask you while we have you in your expertise. Of course, the MLB season is starting to gear towards the end here and get to the postseason, but you've got some dark horses that are looking to get into the wild card spot. Is there a team or two that sticks out to you the most that can kind of get into that wild card spot and secure their space in that postseason?
It would be the Giants. Team just spoke about. I mentioned this to, again, Ben and Donnie a couple of weeks ago, but with what we're seeing from Blake Snell, Robbie Ray's rounding in form, and Logan Webb, that's a pretty awesome starting pitching combo that if they can make the playoffs, that can go head-to-head with almost any team. I would take them head-to-head probably, maybe not over the Padres, but I would take them ahead of the Mets. I think that's certainly fine. I would take them ahead of the Braves, especially if Max Fried isn't healthy for the Braves. Chris Sale would be their number one, but I'm not worried about a pitcher after that for the Braves. So give me the Giants sneaking into the playoffs and probably upsetting a team.
I love it. I'm all on board for it. Tom, thank you so much again for bringing your expertise. And everyone, don't forget to follow Tom Vecchio at Tom_Vecchio1 to continue to stay up to date with all of the nitty gritty of the MLB and best bets. And my favorite thing about you, Tom, is the prop bets and the energy that you bring to the MLB. Stick with us here on SportsGrid TV because we're going to run through the scores and some NFL preseason on the other side.
What a chance it is for Adam Paxton and Victor Tingstrom to pick up their first weekly titles. Adam Paxton, well, it's been the dream debut so far for him. For Victor Tingstrom, he'll feel like this is a moment a little while coming. A place in the final up for grabs for one.
You can do it. Make that double 18 away for a place in the final.
Wesley Plaisir was beaten, knocked out by Mike Warburton in a last leg decider.
Play. That is what they are playing for. They are playing for the trophy. They are playing for the big prize pot, and they are playing for a place in the £25,000 Champions Week.
97.
There is a point you feel that reality will surely kick in for Adam Paxton. He's here on debut. He watches the Super Series almost every single week. He was happy just to be playing in a group. This could be the leg that we talk about at the end of the night as being the one that changed the final, because Adam Paxton has just gone cold at the moment.
Bang on cue.
He doesn't just get two, he gets the lot.
Should take out the 16 out. If not, Mike's just behind him.
Shot on the fifth leg.
Can Paxton deliver one of the biggest moments of his career so far? He can. Double 12. What a moment that is from Adam Paxton. Mike Warburton was looking at 60 to win the match.
14.
Paxton, here's your moment. He approaches the hockey with confidence, with time, and delivers. Adam Paxton on debut. The boy, the fanboy, comes to the Super Series and wins.
Welcome back into Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid TV. I'm Kasey Hudson, bringing you the MLB slate, NFL preseason, NFL Week 1, college football, and golf down the stretch with Brady Cannon. So make sure you stick with us here on SportsGrid TV. Now, a quick update on the MLB scores that got going earlier. You got the Texas Rangers and the Boston Red Sox. Red Sox up 2-1, and a lot of movement jumping on the money line here. No movement in the totals, thankfully. So right now on the money line, you can take the Rangers at plus 138, and then the Red Sox dove down from a minus 205 to a minus 178. So continue to keep track on those live lines. Then you got the Nationals versus the Orioles, and we had Tom Vecchio on just a moment ago giving us his expertise on all the movement here. Right now, you've got the Nationals falling short to the Orioles 2-0 as they keep progressing along top of the second inning there. You got the Marlins and Phillies. You got the Marlins off to a cracking start. It's 3-0 so far. Not much movement going on in the lines. Marlins sitting at a minus 220 money line. Phillies hanging out at a plus 168 money line. And again, if you listen to anything that Tom Vecchio broke down, some of these lines you're going to want to hop in on, maybe put a sprinkle as the movement continues to roll through. Nothing going on so far with the Cardinals and the Reds sitting 0-0, but movement in the lines yet again. Mariners, Tigers 0-0, and all the way through the slate of the games that have already officially gotten started. Now, as I mentioned before, we've got some NFL preseason to get back into and a lot of interesting games coming up this week. And most importantly, when you see starters that participated in last week's games, then most of the time you can guarantee that you won't see them kind of rolling over into this week, especially for teams that are looking to protect their starters or they don't have a massive competition going on in their QB room, running back room, or wide receiver room. So just to kind of tease on some of the games, because we do have a lot of action in the NFL preseason this weekend. Eagles versus Patriots, pregame odds. And we've got some news for you later on when it comes to the Patriots, but I'm glad to see that the Eagles did pick up Pickett. I like to see what he's going to contribute to this roster. He's a different style quarterback than Jalen Hurts, obviously, so it's going to give them some versatility in their play calling book also. But Pickett had a TD and 89 yards last week versus the Ravens. Going up this week against the Patriots, it's going to be interesting because the Patriots kind of have a little bit of a battle to still situate through in their quarterback room. You've got Brissett, and then you've got Drake May, who is still trying to make a case that he's ready for the NFL. A lot of people thought that he should have kind of continued in college, continued to groom his skill set, but he has a point to make, and I think he's going to make it with the Patriots coming up here. Also, somebody to keep an eye on is gauging rookie wide receiver Johnny Wilson. Only took one reception last week, but he's one of those guys that I think will get a little bit more action versus an Eagles team who defensively is still going to be structurally sound. So that'll be a good look at what he can produce and what he can bring to the table for the Pats. Now, Packers versus Broncos. This is a fun one because the Broncos not only, I don't want to say surprise because they didn't surprise me last week, but it was Bo Nix that actually had a performance not only worth talking about, but to continue to gauge as the preseason rolls through. He's not someone that just did well using his arm, but he used his legs also, and I think he surprised a lot of fans with how consistent he pulled through for his team the previous week. I mean, the Broncos game, we didn't expect to really hit much of a flattering over total, and if you guys stuck here with me and Brady Cannon last week, we were both shocked that we missed the opportunity to lay some money on the over total, especially when it started moving before halftime. So maybe something to take into account heading into this week's NFL preseason. You got a Packers team that can air out the ball. As I mentioned earlier, they're trying to situate what their wide receiver looks like, who that WR1 is going to be, and if injury tends to plague this team yet again, then who can they rely on? What's their ground game going to look like? So I can see this being an interesting game when it comes to the over-under total. Saints versus 49ers. They're still trying to situate what their new quarterback is going to look like in this system. I think we saw a few good glimmers last week, but I mean, the competition wasn't exactly as high to say that he's ready for the NFL or not. Then you've got a 49ers team and that Brandon Ayuk. I don't want to call it drama, but if you guys missed it earlier today, there are parameters and conversations between the 49ers and the Steelers. I mean, I really would hate to see Ayuk get lost to the Steelers. I would love to see him stay with the 49ers, but with all of that conversation going on, of course they're going to continue to see what the depth looks like in their wide receiver room and how they would possibly perceive to move forward if Ayuk ends up leaving the 49ers, which means they're going to get some young guys involved, and we're going to have to see what they bring to the table versus the Saints team, who has a young defense that has some kinks to work out also. So this is probably a game where I would almost look at the under total also, because there could be a lot of nastiness going on in that preseason, and that's what preseason's for, working out all the kinks. We got a lot more NFL preseason to get to, as well as college football, and our outstanding guests on the other side of this quick break. So stay with us here on SportsGrid TV.
What a chance it is for Adam Paxton and Victor Tingsham to pick up their first weekly titles. Adam Paxton, well, it's been the dream debut so far for him. For Victor Tingsham, he'll feel like this is a moment a little while coming. A place in the final up for grabs for one.
What you can do, make that double 18 away for a place in the final.
Wesley Plaisir was beaten, knocked out by Mike Warburton in a last leg decider.
That is what they are playing for. They are playing for the trophy. They are playing for the big prize pot, and they are playing for a place in the £25,000 Champions Week.
97.
There is a point you feel that reality will surely kick in for Adam Paxton. He's here on debut. He watches the Super Series almost every single week. He was happy just to be playing in a group. This could be the leg that we talk about at the end of the night as being the one that changed the final, because Adam Paxton has just gone cold at the moment.
Bang on,
He doesn't just get two, he gets the lot.
Adam should take it the 16 out. If not, Mike's just behind him.
Shot on the fifth leg.
Can Paxton deliver one of the biggest moments of his career so far? He can. Double 12. What a moment that is from Adam Paxton. Mike Warburton was looking at 60 to win the match. Paxton, here's your moment. He approaches the hockey with confidence, with time, and delivers. Adam Paxton on debut. The boy, the fanboy, comes to the Super Series and wins.
Welcome back into Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid TV. I'm Kasey Hudson, excited to be hanging with you guys for a little while longer here on Game Time Decisions. Now, quickly touching back to the MLB slate. Again, with the movement on the money line, don't forget to keep an eye on this, because if you want to sprinkle something on those teams that we know is a lock-in, now is the time. Rangers versus the Red Sox. Red Sox still sitting atop 2-1, but that money line for the Red Sox has moved again. It's gone from minus 178 up to minus 250. Rangers sitting at a plus 190 on that money line, and the total has now moved from 10.5 to 9.5. So keep gauging that one. Then Nationals versus the Orioles. You got the Orioles 2-1 up on the Nationals. And the Nationals sitting at plus 250, but the Orioles has jumped up here to a minus 350 on the money line. So a lot of positive movement for the Oilers and how they'll continue to roll and run. Over-under sitting at 10.5. Marlins, are still up 3-0. And not much movement going on here. Pretty stagnant, sitting at minus 280 for the Marlins. Over-under sitting at that 10.5. And again, 0-0 across the board. Cardinals, Reds, Mariners, Tigers, Cubs, Guardians, and Astros versus my Tampa Bay Rays. So we'll continue to keep you guys completely stacked up on the movement taking place in the MLB as these scores roll through. Now, before we cut to that quick break, we were talking about the NFL preseason, what's coming up this weekend, what you should keep a close eye on, and how you should gauge. As we were rolling through Game Time decisions here on SportsGrid TV, we had a trade alert go down. We got Matthew Judon going to Atlanta for a third-round pick, and this is going to be crucial. This is an Atlanta Falcons team that's faced a lot of pressure, going through the head coaching carousel of their own, and now is the time where they want to sit atop of the NFC South and compete. They brought in Kirk Cousins, who should be able to help them in the driver's seat, also with a number of weapons that he will have with the Atlanta Falcons. Now, obviously, we're not going to see much of him and those top guys in action this weekend. But with a trade like this going on, usually you want to get a few reps in for your new guy to kind of see how they acclimate to the playbook. But before we dive into maybe the preseason expectation, just something to consider. John was a little behind in what he can typically deliver defensively. He was sitting at 4 sacks with the Patriots last season. But prior to that, a 15.5 sack season and a number of combined tackles. He was a force to be reckoned with on the Patriots defense, something that the Falcons are going to need because they were sitting at well over 21 plus points of how many points they were allowing their defense to give up. So even in games that they happen to be in, even in games that they tend to be a little bit more offensively sound, they lost short-sighted because their defense was not able to shut down their opponent. So Judon can actually be a great addition for a team that is trying to let the world know that they're not in a rebuild mode, but they're ready to compete right now, and they're sitting at favorable odds to sit on top of the NFC South. In competition this weekend, they're going against the Ravens team that fell short last week. Ravens aren't sitting with a bunch of depth on their roster, so we might see some interesting guys step up in this game time decision, and probably a decent amount of reps from some of their starters. Ravens team that is still probably not considered that highly competitive to maybe knock out a Chiefs team when it comes to the Super Bowl conversation. So while we are just gauging preseason, there are a lot of things that the Ravens do need to step up to and show that they can actually be in conversation to top the Chiefs this upcoming season. Moving on to the Bengals versus the Bears. Now, I mentioned earlier with Caleb Williams being the highlight not only of Chicago right now, but kind of in that conversation of a young guy to steer his team to victory. But the Bears opening up the preseason 2-0, the hopes that they'll hit the NFL season 2-0, going against a Bengals team that fell short by 3 points last week. And I think this will be a great matchup. I think we're going to see more starters involved, hopefully a couple more reps out of Caleb Williams, regardless of the protection aspect. But we have to see that the Bengals are going to be that team that has a little bit more depth. This is a team that was injury-plagued last year. So seeing as how they're probably going to both run their offenses, and with seeing the low total that the Bengals hit last week, I don't expect much to change from there. I don't really expect a whole lot of touchdowns coming out of this one. A young Bears secondary has been a topic of conversation, not only this past season, but the season before that. So you're talking about a number of guys who can help bring a shutdown ability to the game. So I can see this one being a little bit more low scoring. Joe Burrow only went in for a little bit last week versus the Tampa Bay Bucks. Maybe something that he'll come and hop back in for a few snaps and then head back to the sidelines. And there's not a massive depth chart that they're working through in terms of seeing what their quarterbacks can bring to the table. The backup quarterback last year for the Bengals does well, has the NFL experience now, and it's going to be the Bears defense that should be more so tested in this matchup. Something I'm excited to look forward to. You got the Giants and the Texans. Now, looking at the Giants and the Texans made a lot of great moves in this offseason. If you guys have been following along on SportsGrid TV, especially last week and the week prior, you know how high I am on the Texans. I have some sneaky expectations of these guys, and I think that we'll be able to exercise through some of that in this preseason game coming up. Giants kind of have a lot of question marks on what's going to take place there. And if Daniels is going to be their guy moving forward, there is competition in that quarterback room. There is a job to be lost on the line there. So seeing that they can make their progress on offense in the preseason with their depth, with their competition, that's going to be crucial here, especially against a Texans team that, again, they have the perfect blend of a veteran presence on their defense as well as a young presence on their defense. And it was those young guys last season that helped them sneak through and get to a divisional round. And those are going to be the same guys that we expect to see this weekend and put the Giants to the test and see if their movement or lack of movement, one would say, is going to actually help them accumulate enough points to talk playoffs this upcoming year. And then we've got the Lions versus the Chiefs. Big fan of this. Lions versus the Chiefs is something that you're going to want to gauge in terms of Did the Lions grab the right people for their defense? Is this going to be helpful this upcoming season to compete and shut down in the backfield? We didn't really see the Lions have that backfield shut down. We saw some games sneak past them, and no, we're not just talking about whether or not whether they should have taken that kick at that moment or not. This is one of those things where they need to show that they can match pace with some of those wideouts, some of that speed that they're going to be going against in order to compete. They maintain majority of their roster, so there's not a large concern here. My larger concern when it comes to matching up these two teams is going to be the fact that the Chiefs have some question marks at their wide receiving slot. You've got some off-the-field issues. You've got an injury that was accumulated the other week. And then I know Patrick Mahomes is the guy that can do everything, but I don't know if this season can entirely rely on his shoulders or Travis Kelce's shoulders or their defense that we still have some questions about. So this is going to be one of those things where the Lions have enough of a depth chart. They have enough of a roster maintained to see how well they're going to compete against the Chiefs and see if the Chiefs can weather some of their other options offensively. Who's going to be able to step up if they are without Rice, and now that Hollywood Brown is down with an injury that's probably going to keep him off the field for looking at potentially 4 games or more, depends on his recovery ability. Vikings versus the Browns. Obviously, we talked about earlier that J.J. McCarthy is had a successful meniscus surgery. He's out for the remainder of the season, but we know Sam Darnold is the kind of guy that can step in and make things happen. We've seen him do it a number of times with the rotation of teams that he has been through. And we can't count out the fact that the Vikings still have some of the top wide receivers in the NFL. So he has a lot of options to work with. He's managed with the pressure on his shoulders before. If it doesn't turn into a dumpster fire of turnovers, then you're looking at a Vikings team that can kind of stand on their own and compete. But the Browns just have too much to offer defensively. Outside of their starters, they do have quality depth defensively. We've seen a number of those guys rotate in because they silently kind of had to weather through some injury storms on their roster, but more importantly, it was their defense that helped them stay in a number of games so that they weren't completely dragged out and dragged back into some of the situations they were in prior seasons without a sustainable defense. And then Seahawks versus the Titans. Will Levis, I was all on him last year. He's got a number of things to offer in the prop market coming up in the season. So that's something to keep an eye on. And the Seahawks kind of revamping up what their roster is going to look like and how they'll deliver coming up here. But on the Titans side of things, they kind of have to stand by the moves that they made, and we'll see if they have a chance to do that. But coming up, we've got some college football. We got a chance to talk with Mark Zeno and get into all things heading into week 0. So stay with us here on SportsGrid TV.
What a chance it is for Adam Paxton and Victor Tingstrom to pick up their first weekly titles. Adam Paxton, well, it's been the dream debut so far for him. For Victor Tingstrom, he'll feel like this is a moment a little while coming. A place in the final up for grabs for one.
You can do it. Make that double 18 away for a place in the final.
Wesley Plaisir was beaten, knocked out by Mike Warburton in a last leg decider.
Play. That is what they are playing for. They are playing for the trophy. They are playing for the big prize pot, and they are playing for a place in the £25,000 Champions Week.
97.
There is a point you feel that reality will surely kick in for Adam Paxton, who's here on debut. He watches the Super Series almost every single week. He was happy just to be playing in a group. This could be the leg that we talk about at the end of the night as being the one that changed the final, because Adam Paxton has just gone cold at the moment.
Bang on, Kerry.
He doesn't just get 2, he gets the lot.
Adam should take out the 16 out. If not, Mike's just behind him.
Shot on the fifth leg.
Can Paxton deliver one of the biggest moments of his career so far? He can. Double 12. What a moment that is from Adam Paxton. Mike Warburton was looking at 60 to win the match. Paxton, here's your moment. He approaches the hockey with confidence, with time, and delivers. Adam Paxton on debut. The boy, the fanboy, comes to the Super Series and wins.
We're back with Game Time Decisions. Kasey Hudson here hanging out with you, and we've got a guest coming in to not only break down some college football, but I think we need to get a live reaction on this Judon trade for the third pick heading to the Atlanta Falcons. If you guys missed that in the previous segment, but we've got Mark Zeno here. Mark, how are you, aside from, I think, a coaching situation you were just talking about that you got going on earlier?
Yeah, it's not easy coaching 8- and 9-year-old football. So flag football at that, and getting them to understand the concept of a 90-degree angle and making a square in and a square out was much more difficult than I would have anticipated. But life got much more difficult for other NFC teams as the Falcons seem to acquire, at least that's all indications, are acquiring Matt Judon from the New England Patriots for a third-round draft pick. Obviously, they got to get a new deal done. That is still in the works. If the Falcons have learned anything from the New York Jets and the Hassan Reddick situation, you don't consummate this deal unless you put a new contract in place that's ready to be signed by all parties. So let's hope the Falcons will do that. But Kasey, manifestly what this does is give the Falcons that legitimate pass rusher that they have been lusting after. And I mean lusting after for quite some time. Let's call it 10 to 15 years since John Abraham was in a Falcons uniform was the last time they had a bona fide pass rusher. Sure, Dwight Freeney was there. Sure, Calais Campbell was there. But these were guys on the back ends of their career that'll likely, with Dwight Freeney is Hall of Famer, Calais Campbell will probably end up there one day. But all that said, they are getting a legitimate 3-down pass rusher that can set the edge, play. He's incredibly fast. He can drop back in coverage. Matt Judon is a Swiss Army knife on the D end, and they're finally getting that player that's putting them over the top here, or at least theoretically should put them over the top for a team that has finished in the bottom of the league in sacks for 8 of the last 10 years. The Falcons have only exceeded 40 sacks twice in the last 10 years, with some numbers being as low as 30 and 32. So do the math. That's barely 2 sacks a game. It's been pretty pathetic when it comes to pass rush here in Atlanta. So finally, they get the guy they're looking for.
I think you put it perfectly to mention the fact that they are salivating over this move. But is there room for concern the fact that Judon had, only 4 sacks, I think 16 combined tackles last season? A little bit of what they would call a drop-off in a performance when the previous season he had 15.5 sacks. But the pressure was on him to basically man the entire defense for a Patriots team that appeared to have no plan. So is this a system where he'll have a lot more freedom and kind of match that salvation and that thirst and that hunger that the Falcons need out of him right now?
Well, Raheem Morris, remember, was the defensive coordinator with the Rams and Aaron Donald when they won the Super Bowl prior to, up to obviously until last year, until he took the Falcons job. So he's got experience handling high-end and high-talent players like Matt Judon and getting the most out of them. Sitting here comparing Matt Judon to Aaron Donald, plus they play different positions. All that said, there is a defensive mind here that's the head coach that knows how to exploit what Judon brings to this team. And while the Falcons may not be an incredibly talented defense up front, they are a young defense, and they have some good players there. And, you're just hoping that Judon is that piece that pushes some of the other guys and makes other guys better around him. I don't know that you necessarily need a 12 to 15 sack performance out of him. You get 8 to 10, I think you're pretty happy given what this team is used to seeing. So while Judon's going to have certainly high expectations and elevate the defense, in reality, Kasey, remember, this is a Falcons team that's constructed on the offensive side of the ball. They're supposed to score 30 points a game. So you need Matt Judon and company to make 2 or 3 or 4 plays a game. That'll be ultimately the difference maker. They don't have to stop the other team from scoring 27. They just have to stop them when it matters and when it counts. And if the Falcons are winning games 33 to 30, nobody in Atlanta should be complaining. So the point simply is that, this could be the kind of difference maker that you need to make those 1 or 2 stops with the game on the line.
Yeah, and plus all they need to do is kind of bring their points allowed down from, I think it was roughly 23.9 to a little closer to that 20 mark, maybe under 20, so that they can compete in an NFC South that a lot of people think is not very competitive. So before we move on to college football, where do you think this edges the Falcons in terms of the NFC South favoritism? Can they sit above the Tampa Bay Bucks? Can they make a mark now? Can they finally get back to the top of the pack?
Yeah, I mean, look, they're already the favorite to win the division, right? And if you didn't get them yet to win the division, this news is probably going to make them a little bit heavier of a favorite from minus 120, minus 125. I wouldn't be surprised to see it get near 140 for them to win this division with this move alone. Not necessarily because Matt Judon is worth that much in and of himself, but just the parts of the whole make them that much better here. And then an NFC South where defense isn't really the calling card of any of these teams. Yes, the Panthers were a young defense last year. That was good. The Saints have always been a pretty physical defense under Dennis Allen. But these are two teams that are trending in the wrong direction as far as what they're capable of. So the Falcons really only have themselves to beat. If they don't have 10 wins and win this division, something has gone horribly wrong for this team. There are no excuses anymore. There were no excuses before this move. There are definitively no excuses for the Falcons to win the NFC South now.
Yep, and hopefully they do not beat themselves. But it's time for us to get into some college football because the polls have come out, top 25, and you've got Georgia sitting in that number 1 spot through 46 votes. And going back-to-back is a tough feat. So what did you think of Georgia being number 1, Ohio State at 2, Oregon at 3 when these numbers got released?
I'm not surprised. I think the only surprise I really got out of the top 10 was the defending national champion being 9th. I mean, I get it. They lost their quarterback and they lost some other players, but 9th feels a little bit like a slight to me. Nick Saban just left Alabama, and they're still in top 5. Does Kalen DeBoer get that much respect? It seems a little bit weird that, they are 9th and Alabama is there. And, just something didn't add up about that with Michigan, especially being behind Penn State of all teams, a team that they've resoundingly beaten, the last 4 or 5 years in a row. So that sort of stood out to me. Ole Miss wasn't necessarily shocking being that high, but they have got to take out Alabama and take out LSU, which is something that they haven't had a lot of success doing in the last couple of years. And if Oregon is that good, well, the Big Ten should be super competitive this year.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked about that, too, especially when it came to Michigan, because a lot of people are saying that Saban probably put enough structure in place at Alabama so that they can just roll through. But I think they didn't learn their lesson to how things are different when you have a different person in that leadership position. And I think Saban is a spectacular special voice that you can't compare structure in place or not. Alabama's sitting too high for my personal pleasure. But, Marcino, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us about Judon heading over to Atlanta. Most importantly, your thoughts on whether or not Georgia belongs at that number 1 spot. But I think we agree on what's going on with Michigan. Be sure to follow Marcino and get all of your updates and information when it comes to the NFL. Better luck with your 9 and 10-year-olds playing some football. Stay with us here on SportsGrid TV. Catch you guys on the other side.
What a chance it is for Adam Paxton and Victor Tingsham to pick up their first weekly titles. Adam Paxton, well, it's been the dream debut so far for him. For Victor Tingsham, he'll feel like this is a moment a little while coming. A place in the final up for grabs for one.
You can do it. Make that double 18 away for a place in the final.
Wesley Plaisir was beaten, knocked out by Mike Warburton in a last leg decider.
Play. That is what they are playing for. They are playing for the trophy. They are playing for the big prize pot, and they are playing for a place in the £25,000 Champions Week.
97.
There is a point you feel that reality will surely kick in for Adam Paxton. He's here on debut. He watches the Super Series almost every single week. He was happy just to be playing in a group. This could be the leg that we talk about at the end of the night as being the one that changed the final, because Adam Paxton has just gone cold at the moment.
Bang on, Kerry.
He doesn't just get 2, he gets the lot.
Adam should take it the 16 out. If not, Mike's just behind him.
Shot on the big flag.
Can Paxton deliver one of the biggest moments of his career so far? He can. Double 12. What a moment that is from Adam
Paxton.
Paxton. Mike Warburton was looking at 60 to win the match.
14.
Paxton, here's your moment. He approaches the jockey with confidence, with time, and delivers. Adam Paxton on debut. The boy, the fanboy, comes to the Super Series and wins.
Welcome back into Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV. And football fans, this one's for you because it's time for us to get a little bit of a look ahead when it comes to the NFL Week 1 action. So no, we're not talking preseason. No, we're not talking about potential possibility. We're talking about the starters that are supposed to make an impact and get things going. So let's get started here with the Baltimore Ravens versus the Kansas City Chiefs. This is an important game because Week 1, you always have to see some sort of rematch, right? And not that you can particularly compare it to the end of the previous season because these guys are already gone through so much and they've gotten acclimated and their pieces are now fully showing their potential. But you still want to know what can take place in Week 1. The Chiefs haven't started off too hot in the past couple of seasons, so I would keep that in mind when we are gauging the money line, the totals, but the over and the under. The Chiefs kind of snuck back in there last week in their Week 1 situation, but something I want to point out is that whenever the Ravens come in as an underdog, keep a closer eye. Catch these statistics, guys. Head coach John Harbaugh is 46-31-3 against the spread as an underdog. But most importantly, it's quarterback Lamar Jackson that is 12-1 against the spread as a dog. You heard me mention it earlier in the set here on Game Time Decisions that the Chiefs are kind of facing a few different question marks when it comes to their offense outside of Patrick Mahomes. He is the best of the best. I get that. But if you don't have wide receivers to air the ball out to, if you're only relying on Travis Kelce, who we saw have some shutdown moments last season, and teams that have the right defenses to kind of nix him out of the game, this is going to be a tougher matchup when it comes to the Chiefs versus the Ravens. So listening to those underdog stats, looking at this money line, I would kind of sprinkle a little something when it comes to the under 46.5 total. And then check out that spread. I can see the Ravens being able to keep pace and match this spread in this Week 1 matchup. Now, moving forward, we got the Packers versus the Eagles. Looking at the Packers versus the Eagles matchup, Jordan Love has shown himself to be an adequate, more than adequate quarterback in the NFL. The other thing to gauge is the fact that they have to figure out, which Mark LaFleur is so sick of this question, who is your true wide receiver 1? Well, he can't figure that out until he has a healthy core to sort through. Camp is one thing. I know that they're going to continue to protect Christian Watson, somebody I was super high on, somebody coming out of Senior Bowl who I watched and had him on my notebook as a guy who will make an impact in the NFL. But if he can only stay healthy, well, he finally proved me right. Looking at these lines, you've got the Packers sitting at plus 114 money line. You got the Eagles at minus 134, and you've got that over-under total sitting at 48.5. What I like more here is probably going over the 48.5 total. It's because I don't expect Jordan Love to come into this situation cold, regardless of who his wide receiver 1 is. Comparing some notes to last season, regardless of what was coming into the matchup and how many times the Packers were counted out, Jordan Love's ability to air out the ball and find Romeo Doubs and company, anyone else, down the stretch of the field was huge. So they always, in the second half of a game, just started to accumulate points on top of points on top of points. This wasn't a team that really sat too much below a total when it came to a matchup. Then you have an Eagles team that has Hurts. I know that they have a lot more to prove. We have some question marks on how successful they'll be now that there's been movement in their offensive line, but I'm not too stressed about it. Even though you're losing top offensive linemen in the league, you're talking about a quarterback that loves to use his legs given the opportunity, and I'm pretty sure that the coaches are going to give him the go-ahead there, and somebody who also loves to use his legs when it comes to red zone play. So looking at the over 48.5 here, look, I can't really lean in one direction over another when it comes to the money line, but maybe keep an eye on the sprinkle of the plus 114. Then Cowboys versus the Browns. Wow. I don't want to say that drama is going to carry over into the season because they don't know what to do when it comes to payday for CeeDee Lamb. They haven't apparently come up with a plan when it comes to Dak Prescott. Regardless, you've got Micah Parsons. You've got a defense that's still well in structure here. I will say they exceeded my expectations last season, but you're going up against a Browns team that can kind of match pace defensively, if not top them defensively. I think that the Browns can create a massive challenge when it comes to the Cowboys matchup heading into week 1. Also, not saying that the drama of the signings and everything is going to placate into week 1, but when it takes a minute to get your footing underneath you, they already had their head coaching carousel last year. I just think that too many things kind of distract the Cowboys at the moment. And then you have a Browns team that wasn't too far off from being more successful than anyone thought that they were going to be. You got Watson, who did well with airing out the ball. You have a defense that's going to keep them in any game, and I think that they're going to give the Cowboys some trouble week 1. Plus, check out the Cowboys week 1 statistics. But we've got this and so much more, especially golf with Brady Cannon, coming up next here on Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid TV. So do not go anywhere. Stay with us right here on SportsGrid on Game Time Decisions.
What a chance it is for Adam Paxton and Victor Tingstrom to pick up their first weekly titles. Adam Paxton, well, it's been the dream debut so far for him. For Victor Tingstrom, he'll feel like this is a moment a little while coming. A place in the final up for grabs for one.
You can do it. Make that double 18 away for a place in the final.
Wesley Plaisir was beaten, knocked out by Mike Warburton in a last leg decider.
Play. That is what they are playing for. They are playing for the trophy. They are playing for the big prize pot, and they are playing for a place in the £25,000 Champions Week.
97.
There is a point you feel that reality will surely kick in for Adam Paxton, who's here on debut. He watches the Super Series almost every single week. He was happy just to be playing in a group. This could be the leg that we talk about at the end of the night as being the one that changed the final, because Adam Paxton has just gone cold at the moment.
Bang on,
He doesn't just get 2, he gets the lot.
Adam should take out the 16 out. If not, Mike's just behind him.
Shot of the fifth leg.
Can Paxton deliver one of the biggest moments of his career so far? He can. Double 12. What a moment that is from Adam Paxton. Mike Warburton was looking at 60 to win the match. Paxton, here's your moment. He approaches the hockey with confidence, with time, and delivers. Adam Paxton on debut. The boy, the fanboy, comes to the Super Series and wins.
We're back with Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV, but I am not returning alone. It's time for us to get into some golf with Brady Cannon, who I hung out with all last weekend. Brady, how's it going? I'm so excited to chat some golf with you.
Hey, good to be back with you, Kasey. Thanks so much for having me on. Yeah, we've got the FedEx Cup playoffs beginning. It is postseason golf, and they will kick it off in Memphis with the FedEx St. Jude Championship. The final 70 players in the FedEx Cup point standings are all here for the first round of what will be basically a 3-round series. Next week, we go to Colorado, where they trim the field down to the top 50 in the FedEx Cup points. And then it's on to the Tour Championship, the grand finale in Atlanta at East Lake Golf Club, where the final 30 players will be in line to try and capture that FedEx Cup and all $25 million in that purse.
That's a lot of money. It makes me wish I was a lot better at golf, but I'm better on the
Right.
golf course when nobody is out there and there's no pressure going on behind me. But heading into this FedEx Championship, and plus you and I talked a lot last weekend about pressure and kind of gauging these odds and lines heading into these big tournaments. Where are you leaning in terms of probably your top guys and some odds that fans need to gauge heading into this tournament?
Well, I stayed away from the big three at the top. Scotty Scheffler is the shortest price player. No surprise there. He's in the neighborhood of 4-1. And then you've got Xander Schauffele and Rory McIlroy. It's basically 1, 2, and 3 in the world at the top of the board. And I stayed away from those guys. Scheffler actually does not have a tremendous history at this golf course, TPC Southwind. The last 4 trips here, his average finish is 26th. Now, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he went on to win this. I mean, he just came back from, 6 shots back with 4 holes to play in the Olympics. I mean, Superman is here and alive and well. So nothing would surprise me out of Scheffler at this point. But I went down just a little bit deeper and took Colin Morikawa at 14-1, who's really had a fantastic season. He's kind of been the bridesmaid to Scotty all year long. And once again, he's a tremendous fit for this golf course. He's one of the most accurate hitters on tour, great iron player, great scrambler. It just feels weird if this season were to go by and he didn't get a win. I'm hoping that he will be right there in the thick of it come Sunday once again. And then the bronze medal winner. I didn't take the gold medal winner, but I went with the bronze medal winner, Hideki Matsuyama, obviously off a nice showing in France. And this golf course is similar in the sense where driving accuracy trumps driving distance, and you need to avoid the water hazards. There was a lot of water on that course in France, the course they used for the Olympics, and a lot of water here at TPC Southwind, where 11 holes have water coming into play. So I like Matsuyama's ability to keep it accurate and avoid that water. Took him at 28-1. You can pretty much find better than that in a lot of places, as high as 30 or 32-1. And then a little further down the board after that, Russell Henley at 35-1, and he's kind of the same mold as Morikawa. Very accurate off the tee, great scrambler, great iron player. And he really has great history in this part of the country. In the southeastern United States, he went to Georgia, and he is at his best, I think, when he's on Bermuda grass. And in this part of the country, he's done really well over in St. Simon's Island, Georgia, at the RSM Classic. And then Billy Horschel, another guy from the SEC who went to Florida. And I think he does his best work in this type of conditions as well. On the Bermuda grass, just came off of another top 10 finish at the Wyndham, runner-up at the Open Championship. I like his current form. He's got 5 former top 10 finishes here at this golf course. So course form, current form, I like everything about Billy Horschel this week. And then one long bomb, Kasey, triple digits, for Ben Griffin at 130-1, who's had some good finishes as of late, just finished 7th last week at the Wyndham Championship. And I think his skill set makes a lot of sense for this particular golf course.
I actually love those outright winners that you mentioned there, especially Horschel, because you and I were gauging him last week. He kind of started things off nice in the top 5 there before sliding through. But something else you and I discussed last week are maybe dark horses or somebody feeling more pressure outside of your outright winners in the top 5 there. Is there a dark horse that people should keep an eye on? Maybe somebody worth a sprinkle in the odds market?
You know, it's really interesting this week. A lot of people apparently, I've spoken with a lot of bookmakers in Las Vegas, and apparently a lot of bettors are landing on some triple-digit bombs this week, kind of out of character. You know, usually bettors gravitate towards the favorites, and certainly we have a lot of people that are going after Scotty Scheffler this week, but Eric Cole was a name that came up. Brendan Todd was a name that came up. Both of those guys in the neighborhood or at triple digits, 100-1 or better. I mentioned, you know, I took a stab with Ben Griffin. I've seen people on Sahith Theegala. Now he's in the neighborhood of maybe 45 or 50-1. Victor Hovland out of nowhere, who is your defending FedEx Cup champion. I've seen people on him, but it really feels like bettors are all over the map for this tournament. Only 70 players to choose from, and it feels like people are going after a little bit of everything. Taylor Moore was another long shot I know that people are interested in this week. So, you know, more variety, I think, than, you know, as far as the betting markets are concerned, more variety, I think, than we've seen in recent weeks here in Memphis.
Yeah, and with that being said, variety can be a great thing or it can be a scary thing when it comes to betting. But are there any betting angles that everyone should be aware of when it comes to the postseason specifically? You mentioned those top 70 players, maybe something to gauge as you run through the postseason tournaments for golf.
Well, when we get past this, we've got the final 70. The top 70 was determined after last week's Wyndham Championship. The way the points fell, those 70 get into the playoffs. They're here this week. Now, after the dust settles here in Memphis, we whittle down to the top 50. However, the points shake out for the top 50 players, and then finally on to East Lake for the top 30. So maybe take a look at the guys that are on the bubble. Guys right around, 47th, 48th, 49th, 50th, 51, 52. Guys in those positions on the points list, possibly a little bit more pressure on those guys. I'd kind of like to find a guy that is maybe in that 47, 48, 49. He's inside the top 50. So as it stands right now, he's in place to advance to next week. So I think that puts less pressure on him, but enough pressure on him to hold serve and keep his position to get his attention. I think those guys can be possible bets. Now, that being said, Kasey, I don't want to put all my eggs in that handicapping basket. I don't want to just rely on a guy being motivated or being able to flip a switch and being able to suddenly play better golf because he knows a lot is on the line if he doesn't play well. It's like in football, when you have a must-win situation. Is this team all of a sudden going to play better because they know that they have to win this week? No, I don't think that's the case. But you kind of need to play sideline psychologist a little bit and see what kind of motivation might be present for some of these guys. And then it's a sprinkle into your handicap, to use your phrase. I'm still going to stick to the process with the course form, the current form, and the stats and the numbers and the market. But, maybe a little bit of an angle on motivation as well can be present as we roll through the postseason here.
100%. Love that angle. Brady, before I let you go, I hear that you have some live picks for us to keep an eye on in that tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. Live Greenbrier. They are in West Virginia at America's Resort, the Greenbrier. And I took 3 players, only 54 players in the field at Live. This was a course that was very popular on the PGA Tour for many, many years. Now, the last 2 years, it's been a part of the Live circuit. And I don't often go to the defending champion, Kasey, but I did this week because I think this course is really suited to the bombers. And there's no bigger bomber in the world than Bryson DeChambeau. Number 1 on the Live circuit in driving distance. He is 9th in greens and regulation. I think it's all about driving the ball a long way and hitting greens and regulation this week. So I went with DeChambeau, who is the defending champion. Joaquin Niemann won here on the PGA Tour in 2019, 2nd on the Live circuit in driving distance. And then finally, a longer shot, 40-1 on Abraham Answer. We'll see if one of those 3 guys can get it done this week in West Virginia.
Love the insight. Be sure to follow Brady for all things golf. Quick break coming up, and then on the other side, we got more MLB. Stay tuned.
What a chance it is for Adam Paxton and Victor Tingstrom to pick up their first weekly titles. Adam Paxton, well, it's been the dream debut so far for him. For Victor Tingstrom, he'll feel like this is a moment a little while coming. A place in the final up for grabs for one.
You can do it. Make that double 18 away for a place in the final.
Wesley Plaisir was beaten, knocked out by Mike Warburton in a last leg decider.
That is what they are playing for. They are playing for the trophy. They are playing for the big prize pot, and they are playing for a place in the £25,000 Champions Week.
97.
There is a point you feel that reality will surely kick in for Adam Paxton. He's here on debut. He watches the Super Series almost every single week. He was happy just to be playing in a group. This could be the leg that we talk about at the end of the night as being the one that changed the final, because Adam Paxton has just gone cold at the moment.
Bang on, Q.
He doesn't just get 2, he gets the lot.
Adam should take it the 16 out. If not, Mike's just behind him.
Shot on the fifth leg.
Can Paxton deliver one of the biggest moments of his career so far? He can. Double 12. What a moment that is from Adam Paxton. Mike Warburton was looking at 60 to win the match.
14.
Paxton, here's your moment. He approaches the hockey with confidence, with time, and delivers. Adam Paxton on debut. The boy, the fanboy, comes to the Super Series and wins.
We are back here with Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid TV. Kasey Hudson, excited to be hanging with you all. We just had Brady chat some golf with us. We've had a lot of great guests, but right now we've got Dave Sherpin. You can follow him over at Sportsbook Consig. And look, we've got a late night slate to touch back on after talking to Tom Vecchio. And plus, we might also pick Dave's brain on that top 25 AP poll. But before we get into all of that, Dave, how are you? Thank you so much for joining me here on SportsGrid on Game Time Decisions.
Kasey, good to see you. I mean, I signed in, and it's not Kevin, but it's another K. Welcome to the family. Good to see you. You're not in Florida anymore, but I'm out in Vegas. This is good. You're back in Jersey holding it down. We got late night baseball. We got the start of college football season coming up. Wherever you want to go, usually when I come on in this segment, Kevin just talks and talks and talks, and he usually works LeBron in every day. It's the only requirement for you today. No LeBron talk, please.
Oh, don't worry about that, because I probably have a controversial take on LeBron James, but I'll stress out the SportsGrid family and company with that later on another day in time. But getting to the MLB late slate, let's talk about this Dodgers-Brewers game. And then I mentioned with Vecchio earlier, it was Joe Ohtani who had his 37th bomb of the season yesterday, I believe it was. But what are you seeing in this late-night matchup, and what's more attractive to you when it comes to the odds and the lines?
So it's unbelievable the way the Dodgers continue to win. And today, the bettors are against them. I mean, I like to call them the bad guys, the guys that show up with the book with money. I mean, I've seen it in Vegas for over a couple decades. They're playing against the Dodgers and against the sweep. The Dodgers have won 5 in a row. Walker Buehler coming back, a lot of question marks. So I think, I mean, you understand why the play comes in. But, I mean, it's Dodger blue. You ride or die until they lose. I think there's not many times this season you get the Dodgers at minus 120. And it's dropping even as we get closer to game time. And, you know, me and Zeno will talk about it later as the game goes on. Dodgers been getting a lead against the Brewers and then just extending it. So early look is Dodgers for me.
I love that, especially because you make a great point. It is hard to nail the Dodgers down at good price points, especially with something like that. And we've learned the hard way here at SportsGrid that when you get that kind of insight, you hop on it. Brady and I missed some good marks this past weekend. Now, getting over to the Yankees and the White Sox, there's some conversation around Aaron Judge's performance kind of slipping and sliding backwards. You got a White Sox team that's hit or miss like most Chicago teams. What are you laying in this game?
I mean, friends don't let friends bet the White Sox, and I want to be your friend. So I don't think I would recommend a White Sox play here. I don't even know if I would take them plus 1.5. After the White Sox blew out the Yankees 2 days ago, Yankees got a little bit right yesterday. Juan Soto, big performance, 3 home runs. It was great. All that is good. Yankee fans, relax. Like, it's a long season. Judge is going to go. I mean, he's got to come back to earth. He's going to win the American League MVP. It's fine. It's all good. So I guess it would be Yankees on the run line rather than lay the 250 if you have to play this game. I can't even trust the over in the game. It would probably be Yankees first 5 or Yankees team total. I want nothing to do with the White Sox tonight, Kasey.
I appreciate you protecting our newfound friendship here, but I was going to ask about the run line anyway, which I like that you talked about Yankees run line. Now we got the Blue Jays and the Angels, maybe a couple more flattering angles betting-wise in this matchup.
Yeah, so this is strange, right? This is a game, and I talked about it last night on In-Game Live. There won't be much handle on this game, and it's the last game of the night along with the Braves and the Giants. I don't really have a strong opinion here. You would think Barrios would be favored, so I'm surprised that the number is what it is. I would rather take the Blue Jays in this spot, probably an under against Tyler Anderson, and like under the 4.5 Ks is minus 134, a little bit expensive, but rather have that than taking the Angels. I think more, rather than a play on the Angels, it's a play against the Angels, despite those uniforms that Anderson was wearing. Good job with the graphics, boys. I like that uni.
I think you and a number of people are on the Anderson under prop here, especially for that matchup. And then gearing forward, we've got the Braves taking on the Giants. Giants, a team that's talked about to potentially sneak in the mix of, I think, wild card conversations. But what are you seeing between these two?
It's Braves for me. Found a way to win an unbelievable baseball game 2 nights ago in extra innings. Sale became the favorite to win the National League Cy Young again after that. Now, Robbie Ray has pitched good in his return on the Giants, and I'm really surprised that number is that high, 7.5 with the Ks. I thought it would be 6.5. So 7.5 with big juice. Maybe you find 6.5 and go under. I don't know how long Robbie Ray is going to go. So for him to get that number, he has to probably get into the 7th. So maybe his total outs under, maybe Braves first 5. Couple different options for me. But both games have gone into extra innings. So expect the unexpected in this one out in the Bay Area.
I appreciate that. And plus, everything stays excited in the Bay Area. Now, while I have you, I've got to ask about the top 25 polls that came out earlier. I started talking a little bit with Mark Zeno earlier, engaging his perspective. Georgia hitting that number 1 spot by 46 votes. It's hard to go back to back, and they're saying that this is a large feat for Georgia. But what was the biggest surprise for you in this top 25 poll?
Tell you what, after decades of being an odds maker and working in a book in Vegas, I purposely don't look at this. I have my own power ratings, and I talk to guys that bet and look at this stuff. I don't look at the AP poll because I think it can cloud your judgment as far as handicapping. Now, what you see is very SEC heavy. I'm in Vegas, but I'm originally a Pittsburgh guy. That's behind me. I'm a Penn State guy, too. I like where Penn State is there. I think they can go up.
I don't know if everyone would agree on that one, but stick with us here on SportsGrid TV. Make sure that you follow the share pin, and we'll catch you guys quickly on the other side of this break from Game Time Decisions.
What a chance it is for Adam Paxton and Victor Tingstrom to pick up their first weekly titles. Adam Paxton, well, it's been the dream debut so far for him. For Victor Tingstrom, he'll feel like this is a moment a little while coming. A place in the final up for grabs for one.
You can do it. Make that double 18 away for a place in the final.
Wesley Plaisir was beaten, knocked out by Mike Warburton in a last leg decider.
Play. That is what they are playing for. They are playing for the trophy. They are playing for the big prize pot, and they are playing for a place in the £25,000 Champions Week.
97.
There is a point you feel that reality will surely kick in for Adam Paxton. He's here on debut. He watches the Super Series almost every single week. He was happy just to be playing in a group. This could be the leg that we talk about at the end of the night as being the one that changed the final, because Adam Paxton has just gone cold at the moment.
Bang on,
He doesn't just get 2, he gets the lot.
Adam should take out the 16 out. If not, Mike's just behind him.
Shot on the big flag.
Can Paxton deliver one of the biggest moments of his career so far? He can. Double 12. What a moment that is from Adam Paxton. Mike Warburton was looking at 60 to win the match.
14.
Paxton, here's your moment. He approaches Aoki with confidence, with time, and delivers. Adam Paxton on debut. The boy, the fanboy, comes to the Super Series and wins.
We're back in the final stretch, or for a pun on words, the final inning of Game Time Decisions. Kasey Hudson here on SportsGrid TV, and we do have some MLB scores to catch you up on. After all the conversations with the great guests, I hope you had a chance to tune in and make sure that you have the best betting angles to bet smart. Here on SportsGrid TV, from Tom Vecchio to Dave Sherapin, Kate Constable earlier with WNBA tips for tomorrow night's return. So make sure that you guys stay tuned with all things SportsGrid and track back against those great, fantastic guests. Now, getting back to the MLB, we've got the Texas Rangers still behind the Boston Red Sox. Boston Red Sox rolling 4-2 here, and the Lions really switching up, but obviously them being top of the 7th, it makes sense for the money line for the Red Sox to be sitting at, well, it was just minus 750, just moved to minus 560. This over-under did change, though, to a total of 8.5. Then we've got the Nationals and Orioles. That one's still sitting stagnant. 2-1 Orioles on top. Not much movement going on here besides the total jumping down to 6.5. Then you've got the Miami Marlins and the Phillies. Marlins maintaining their 3 lead, but it's 5-2, so they're hanging in there. Again, not much movement coming in. A little bit of movement going on for the Phillies money line. Just dropped down to plus 140, and their over-under total sitting at 13.5. And then the more surprising of the slate so far for me, after hearing from Vecchio, after kind of gauging the numbers and the lineups for these two teams, you got a Cardinals team that a lot of people were hot on. Me personally, as I just mentioned, I don't really sit on money lines too much. This was a money line that I found more attractive considering the statistics. Well, the Cardinals are down 4-0 to the Reds, and it's because you got a couple of guys coming in hot. You got 2 home runs, thanks to Jonathan India and Tyler Stevenson kind of going to town with throwing some bombs in the field. And then you've got a number of guys who are kind of catching up on that run total, which explains the 4-0 lead in the top of the 5th inning. And let's see if anything else got moving here. Mariners and Tigers got going. Mariners up 1-0. And when we're just looking at who's kind of making waves for this matchup, you've got the Cubs and the Guardians. Guardians up top of the 6th, 4-1. And look, the Guardians have a number of things going in their favor. You got Stephen Kwan getting work done. You got Will Brennan getting work done. And Jose Ramirez and company is also Josh Naylor, somebody I like to keep an eye on when it comes to props, but we didn't break down any props for him. So these are lines you guys are going to continue to watch. We also just talked about the late night slate and things and money lines and run lines that you're going to track there. I really do like the Yankees run line option that Dave just walked us through. When you know what the mound matchup is, you want to gauge the run line for sure over a money line option or over under total. I think it just kind of gives you a better gauge on how you're going to be successful in that betting market, especially through any live betting. And then a quick update for the Mets versus the Athletics. We talked at the top of the segment here at Game Time Decisions that the Mets need to even up the series. Every game counts for this team, and they have a lot to prove after kind of falling short yesterday. So them getting off to a nice 2-0 start, top of the 4th here, is a good look for them. Let's see who they have helping them out with their success in that aspect. Let's see. It's not loading up yet, but yes. So we got the Mets still sitting on top of the scoreboard. Don't forget, you've got an opportunity when it comes to the Dodgers, a money line that you can't always slam down on and cash in on, but this is an opportunity for the late night slate versus the Brewers where you can probably get some favorable money when it comes to the Dodgers money line and matchup. Now, also, just kind of circling back to a lot of the things that we discussed here on Game Time Decisions. We went through the preseason coming up here, kind of the favorite odds and bets and lines heading into the weekend. And look, week one, we got a chance to start diving into that. And there was a number of games. You guys heard my thoughts when it comes to the Cowboys and the Browns. We have a lot of drama circulating in the NFL and whether or not that'll placate into anything. And one of the top conversations that we didn't get a chance to touch on was Jets versus 49ers. You got Hassan Reddick, who's having some contractual issues when it comes to the Jets, and he's going to be a guy that they cannot afford to lose. That defensive structure has to not only stay intact, but it has to get even better than it was last year if they're going to compete and maybe sit atop of their conference. Who knows? But we got that and so much more, especially with the late night slate coming up with in-game live primetime. You've got Mark Zeno coming back to chat with you. You've got Dave Pan coming back to talk with you. You're not going to want to miss anything coming up next, so stick around here on SportsGrid TV. Thank you for joining me here on Game Time Decisions. Throwing it to you, Dave and Mark.